Welcome back to another exciting episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Teresa. One aspect of life is stepping into our innate spiritual gifts. Oftentimes, this comes with exploring life through all the ups, downs, and challenges that it has to offer. And I don't know about you guys, but these days there's a lot that we're offering and a lot on our plates these days. And one powerful aspect to life is sharing your gifts and journeys with others and helping them to relate to what they're going through and that they are not alone. My guest today is someone who has walked her talk and is here to share her journey and ways that she can assist you on your journey too. Her name is Bernadette Gold, and she is an author, no-nonsense clairvoyant medium, facilitating rapid breakthroughs that create insights leading to quantum leaps in health, happiness, and prosperity. Since 2000, she's run a successful practice using her skills as a spiritual teacher, master healer, and consciousness leader and coach to guide tens of thousands of successful high achievers to their highest path and purpose, connecting them to spirit. Bernadette also facilitates groups coaching programs where she helps clients clear old wounds, beliefs, and traumas, creating a new energetic paradigm that leads to elevated income, increased impact, and fulfillment in all areas of life. Welcome, Bernadette.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm excited you're here too. And let's talk about our unique paths that we all take, and especially the one we're on all as collectively right now, because we are on a very unique path. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, like no other time in history. And we have a ton of information coming at us all the time. So being able to weed through that on a deeper level versus just sort of our normal senses is super important right now, I think, to help people stabilize.
Without a doubt. And one thing that I've noticed with everyone that's coming at me for interviews, as well as clients and other people I'm working with, is that the unique paths that we're all being exposed to and that's coming out is really helping other people on their path to relating to what they're going through. So I want to talk a little about your book, The Crooked Path to a Charmed Life, because you have had a uniquely crooked path, which a lot of us have, and it's led to a really charmed life with working with people and helping them on their paths too.
Yeah. So, and I found this to be true with a lot of people, which is why I wrote the book and decided to share many of my stories. And lots of people don't. I don't think they knew all of what I've been through. They know some of it because I'm pretty open on social media, but some things I had never shared, like being raped. And my dad he lives with me. He's 80 now. He wanted to read it. And at first I was like, I don't know, because you're going to feel bad, about things you didn't know about. But I've found that a lot of people that are on the spiritual path right now that are awakening, they haven't had a straight path. It hasn't been super easy. They've had to go through turmoil and challenges and obstacles. And while I don't think everyone will have to go through the inordinate amount of trauma that I've experienced since birth, it does serve a purpose in sharing my story, because I've been through some crazy things and gotten through some very crazy things, both just in a normal way. And then you add the supernatural, paranormal things that I've been through, demons and darkness and that sort of thing. And when people read it, they've told me, like, you've been through so much. If you can get through it, I know I can get through my life right now.
I'm filled with chills as you say that. Yeah, that's really important, that relatability on maybe, like you said, not the depth of maybe what you've experienced, because we're all unique. We all have our experiences, but in different ways. So there's aspects of your journey that people are going to go, oh, I relate to that. Oh my gosh. And that's important. It is important.
Yep. That thing of not wanting to feel alone is innately human. We don't want to feel like we're alone. We don't want to, because if we're alone, we might be crazy. And then if we're crazy, we might get kicked out of society, and then we're all alone. And what do we all want? We all want that sense of connection and love and acceptance. So when people share their stories, it's powerfully moving. And we're seeing it, like, even in the book world. I just took part in a nonfiction authors conference last week, and there are so many memoirs coming out because humans also learn from the stories of others. So
I totally agree with you. Yeah. It's like, and especially in the spiritual realm and the metaphysical, or, the realm that we're in. I mean, there's a lot of people sharing their stories, and for good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even I mean, we see it in entrepreneurship, business success. What do you do when you want to be successful? You find the most successful person that you look up to, and you go read about them. You learn about them. What are their habits? What have they done? What have they been through? So it's no different than that, but a lot of people right now are looking to heal trauma. So the more I think that people share their stories about overcoming childhood trauma, overcoming the programs of the ego, and learning how to connect to self, and that's all necessary stuff to connect to spirit.
Right. And I don't know, I would love you to share and see if you've noticed this lately with clients and people you've been talking to, is that I've noticed for myself and others, a lot of past life stuff coming up to heal.
Yeah. So a lot of that has to do just with planetary aspects in the time that we're in. I'm an astrologer too. Although not professional astrologer, I just study the movements of the planets and understand it. We're in a very Neptunian cycle, right? So Neptune rules imagination, it rules the psychic, it rules the delusions and the illusions. And as we've seen on this planet for the past 2 years, a lot of things in the dark have come to the light. So then it would make sense in our psyche and in our own awareness that those things in us are coming out for our own awareness. And so our intuition is getting tuned in, we're our imagination's getting triggered, our creativity is now getting triggered. And some of the greatest times of evolution in history have happened during times of peak creativity.
Right. And I also like to the aspect of being in a challenging time, because that is also like, when you break open that egg, that's when the magic happens. And I've had so many people, as well as myself, had the best explorations, the best openings in the last 2 years. I mean, so it's been a really profound time. And one thing I want to talk to you about too, is with the opening, is the energies that we're all feeling, because since I believe, which I'm sure you do too, that we're soul, we're all energy, everything's energy, and how to discern that energy and how to know what's me, what's not me. It's huge right now.
It is, especially for people who are empathic or sensitive. And it seems like that is being sort of turned up
a little bit.
Yeah, especially the last, I would say, the last 6 months, it's been harsh, but even the last 2 months, I've talked to so many people in the last week that are like, what is up? Sleep is off. Everything's off right now. And it's funny because I was watching a Korean drama yesterday, and it was very deep. And at the end of it, I had this thought that I wrote down about how it's so strange how we live our lives as children, moving forward and looking forward. And then when we hit a certain age, we live our lives backward and looking back in order to go forward. So I journaled this whole thing and was talking to Spirit last night. I said, it's so weird. This whole, it is kind of like a figure eight. We're going in one direction, then we loop back, and then we loop back again on this never ending journey. And as far as past lives are concerned, because the veil is so very thin, our Akashic records are very easily accessible right now. So we have things coming through that need our attention in order to sort of understand why we're here in this life. What are you here to not necessarily, because I don't like that whole thought of like, you're here to pay karma. Like this is some, rectify past life thing. That's not what it is. You're here to make better choices that are more in alignment with who you are at a soul level. That's what that's about.
Totally agree with that.
Understand the interactions that we have. They're not just this life. These are things that happen in past lives. We came because we wanted a second shot at fixing it. I don't want to be that person in this life. When I do Akashic record readings for people, I always warn them up front before they book, because they're not cheap. They take me a very long time. And I tell them, if you are looking for like your life is Cleopatra, keep looking, because that's not me. I'm going to bring up the things that are causing you issues in this life.
Right.
So your ex, your parents, what you want to understand those relationships and the choices you made in a past life to bring those lessons forward. That's what
Right.
we're going to find in the Akashic records. So yeah, it's an interesting time because no time in history that I know of, that we know of, have we had that kind of access. Now, there have been periods, I'm sure, that we aren't aware of and aren't recorded, where we had full access to that. But at this time in our own history, it's imperative that we understand the multi-dimensional realities that we have existed in.
Right. And how we're carrying things over from past lives and past incarnations. And I know for myself, I've recognized, especially this past week, that as a collective, some of the collective energies of my past life, which was in Nazi Germany, are coming back and flowing in now and trying for healing. And that's a big deal.
And that's a double one, right? Because you're not talking about something that happened 5,000 years ago. You're talking about something that's still a very active part of our history. On top of that, we have, and they've proven this, there's historical trauma that's embedded into the DNA and carried down through the generations. So you have that lifetime and a recollection of it, but then it's embedded in your DNA, creating certain unconscious reactions and patterning. So you've got to go at it multiple multi-dimensional ways to heal it. You can't just go, well, let's do narrative therapy. Narrative therapy is not going to address that. And in fact, if you tell a shrink, well, I had a past life, they're going to medicate you or put you in a hospital.
Yes, 100%.
Because our psychology, our psychological institution hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so understanding that we are all these different levels has helped me on my journey. And so that is what I'm really out to help people with, especially sharing like what you do in the world and your gifts, is because people are going to resonate with different things and all the different layers of, of what we're here to do, and the mirrors we're here to mirror to people. Like, okay, yeah, I've had these past lives and I'm a medium and I'm a channeler and whatever it's going to be, and helping people relate to those different aspects of themselves that they can, that we can bounce back to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, the work that you're doing, I think, is so important in the world. It's so important and needed. And I don't know, because I don't look at it so much as like trying to branch off in these different things. And these are just podcasts, or these are just it's just information. I look at it as this is the spiritual food the world has been craving for a very long time and starving. We've been fed from the media for so long. Now that we have the ability to get independent voices out there and independent perspectives and a more spiritual perspective, there's an opportunity for people to finally be truly spiritual fed without the dogma.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I just love you said that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That felt like a big healing for me today. Because when I think about the podcast and the episodes and different people I connect all over the world to do interviews and to share with, I just see this energetic, like web, like we're all being connected and for a bigger purpose. And it feels to me like a collective, the collective conscious, but a collective community of like-minded souls, just sharing in different variations. So that's really profound. I appreciate you so much saying that, Bernadette.
Well, it's interesting too, because you talk about the web and when I'm in the Akashic records, a lot of people see them very differently, right? Some people see them as sort of holographic. I always see it as this giant tapestry. Ever since I've connected to the Akashic records when I was young, it's like this gigantic tapestry of these light threads that go on for infinity. But there are times when those threads are actually braided with other threads. So when you're pulling one thread, you're not just pulling one, you're pulling several, all the people connected to your braid. So when you say like connected by a web, I instantaneously go to, yeah, that's true too. Because I think that's what we're doing. We're braiding together with the souls that will help us achieve the growth that we came here to achieve.
Definitely. And yeah, oh, for sure. And, I think we're at a time too, where we're beyond like now there's a place for everything. I truly believe that there's a place for like, metaphysical kind of woo woo kind of, dressing like we're back in the, the days of the witches and whatever. There's a place for everything. So I'm not discounting anything, but we're now to the point where we need to make this shit practical. Like
Yes.
it's on like Donkey Kong. Like there's no time like now to how the hell do I walk and work in this world being a sensitive energy soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely true. The practicality of spirituality in a lot of circles has kind of gone out the window, and a lot of people are using it to bypass. The spiritual bypassing is real. Emotional bypassing is real. And you can get so caught up in the, let's just say, drive to attain enlightenment and awareness that you lose sight of what is important. You came into third dimension. You came into physical form, something you can't do when you're in your light body. You came here to experience. So if you came to third dimension, it would make sense that you need to live your life in third dimension. I mean, the Bible says you're in the world, not of the world. And that's very true. We have to be in the world though. So this constant, and it drives me crazy, this constant pitch outward. Let me go into the astrals. Let me go into meditation for 2 to 4 hours a day. And let me achieve this. Let me chase that guru so I can achieve. What are you trying to achieve? Everything you need's already inside of you. Some of the greatest texts that have ever existed say that. And yet we get lost in the next best teacher, the next best practice, the next. We have to be able to bring all of that home into living our daily lives. And, the one thing I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, who's also a psychic, and she's been struggling a bit with the energy too, and discernment and all these different high level teachers. I was mentioning to her, like, some of it's become a little spiritually arrogant, a little egotistical, and it's kind of disappointing. And she said, well, how do we deal with it, Bernadette? And I was like, well, first things first, what would Jesus do? Because everything always comes back to that for me. Jesus or Buddha, what would they do? How would they speak about this? How would they walk through COVID? How would they walk through all of this nonsense in the media? And if we can just keep that simple question, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus say? What would Jesus think? How would Jesus walk? And I'm not saying that in any way religious, because I'm not religious. I'm agnostic, but I've studied all the religions. And Jesus has the highest level of consciousness that we can connect to, which was love, unconditional love and acceptance. So if Jesus wouldn't say it, do it, think it, don't do that.
Right. And I know for myself, like I've known a lot of people who are on the Christian side, and I'll give you an example. So the other day we're sitting or eating in this restaurant, and it was just kind of like a pub kind of place. We're having our little pizzas or whatever. And there's a lady and her husband next to us, and it took like an hour because there was a lot of people in there. So my husband had his little beer, and we were just kind of relaxing. And this one lady was like, where the F is my food? And next thing you know, her food came about 20 minutes later, and then they prayed. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's walking your talk. And I want to share also a word that's been coming to me recently about the spiritual part and making it practical is, how sincere are you about making your spirituality practical? Because that's what I'm seeing a lot in the communities, is that insincerity, like you've mentioned about, it's all about transcending and getting to the 12th dimension. And no, it's not about that. And no, it's not about, where the F is my food. It's about, being that love and being patient and forgiveness and all those things that, yes, Jesus was a beautiful, bringer of. But bringing that energy in and really owning it is I think that's back to that sincerity. And are they really, really ready to be sincere about their spiritual aspect of their life and who they really are and what they're here to do?
I'm glad you said that, because I was teaching one of my classes the other day, and someone asked me, because they saw someone on a YouTube interview like this, I guess, and the way that she took it, and I didn't watch the interview, so I can't say for sure, right? But the way she took it and asked me, she said, well, what about when people are not the same vibration and frequency as us? Because this woman was saying that we should only be around the people with the same vibration and frequency. And in the nicest possible way, but very stern, because that's the kind of teacher I am, I explained to her, if that were the case, first of all, I live with my 80-year-old father. He's lived with me since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
If I were only going to hang out with the people with the best and highest frequency, my father would not live with me. My daughters, when they went through teenage years, would not have lived with me.
Mm-hmm.
And my dog would not want to be around me because her frequency is that much higher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not practical.
Mm-mm.
It's damaging. If you can only be around the people that are the happy vibe, high vibe, that's not going to get you anywhere. And you're going to eventually end up very disappointed and alone. And how do you do that and still go to work?
Mm-hmm.
Bring the
Exactly.
vibe with you wherever you go. Be the example. That's what Christ did. Who did he hang out with?
I just heard be the change.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like access that change. And I agree with you 100%, Bernadette, because we're all, the whole planet's at different levels of consciousness. And we're not here to hang out with each other who are at the same level. And actually, we're not at the same level anyway. You know, maybe we're aware, maybe we're more, you know, some psychic or more, you know, open to things, but we're all different levels. So we have to interact with each other. That is part of our learning and growth. And being
we are
in relationship
one thought
with
away
others.
from lowering our vibration at any moment.
Right.
One
oh
thought.
Yeah. Right. And you know, we know that if you depends upon what you're watching on the TV, on the social media, how easily that one level of vibration can just go and you're back in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a struggle every single day for people.
I think if we can just remember, we're here to experience. I mean, we truly are unique aspects of God having a human experience. We are.
Yes.
But to try and get back to God in our meditations and in these practices, that's God came here through us, through the many faces that walk around. Every person you deal with is an aspect of God and of yourself. So if we can remember that and hold that, start to emulate the respect and honor for every living being that, okay, that's God. Even that distressing mask where you're cussing, you're swearing, you're like, where are the F's, my distressing mask of God? Because under the mask, there's only light.
Right.
And we all return to the same place.
We all come from the same place. We return to the same place. It's just having these unique journeys along the way.
Yeah, a lot of the teachings that are out there, and I think are very distracting and part of the Neptune cycle of illusion, delusion, fantasy, you know, because if it looks a certain way on the outside, if I look spiritual, then maybe I'll be spirit. It doesn't work that way. It's not outside in, it's inside out. And the more I think that we get more practical about that, like, can I go to work with the person who's constantly criticizing me and getting in my way and still be loving?
Right. Still be
when
that
my
light.
Teenagers mouthing off, right? Doesn't want to do their chores, won't do their homework, and getting in fights with the siblings. Can I stay calm and stay loving and present, not in my ego, and really pay attention to the energy, the emotions that are coming forth, and still offer love?
Right. And so let's talk about some of the ways that you can help the listeners and on their journeys if they're looking for that assistance.
Absolutely. So I do one-on-ones. And while I am a psychic, I don't use my gifts just to do simple readings. So there's plenty of people that do that, and I'm not bad mouthing it. I started my career that way, but through the years, I've found that it's better to offer my gifts on a deep level to find out really what is driving some of the lack that's in someone's life, whether that's love or health or money. So I do one-on-one sessions. I also do group programs, and I help get people through their traumas. And we use things like EFT, and I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm an energy worker. I have my own modality of healing that I work with, so that we can heal on all levels. But it's like my highest group program is a year. Because I tell people all the time, and it's called Charm Life, right? Charm Life Mastery. It's life work. It doesn't stop. Most of my people stay with me for a few years because it takes time to apply all of the spiritual principles and universal laws, applying it once we get beyond the ego programs, the delusions, and begin to take full responsibility for who we are. So I work on many, many different levels, and people can go find out just by looking at my website.
So is what I hear you saying, Bernadette, is I'm not going to be acquiring my mastery by tomorrow.
No, there's no magic wand. I mean, that's
God, but I paid that money for it, Bernadette.
I know. Well, and that's, I think, part of the stuff that's going on right now is everyone's looking for the quick fix, manifest your life quickly. You can make things happen quickly. But a lot of times that doorway of manifestation is to show you that it's real. When I learned how to manifest, I was in my 20s and my life had just fallen apart after the molestation of my daughter. And I literally shook my hand at the heavens. And I'm like, either you teach me how to turn this around and turn my life around, or I'm done. And I'm not just leaving, I'm taking her with me. And I was serious because she had no one left. It was just her and I. And slowly but surely, they taught me how to turn my finances around, how to get a hold of my emotions, how to help her. And it was great because I had some really big bursts. Like I manifested $25,000 in cash just in a week, bought a boat, lived on the boat, all of these great things. And then the work began. So I would warn people, like, you want to manifest, that's cool, but it's not just a manifest. Usually you're going to have a big breakthrough. And then it isn't just now you have a magic wand. No, that big breakthrough gave you the experience to have the faith through what you're about to go through next, which is your own rewiring and remaking and real strong depth connection to self.
When the real work starts.
Which goes on forever. I mean, this isn't our first lifetime.
And this is what we're here to do, right, Bernadette? Learn and grow.
And clean it up. I mean, in Ho'oponopono, it's all about clean the data that has been here from me and my ancestors.
Yeah, I just did a work with
creation.
Yeah, for sure. I just did a work with a gentleman I'm doing like a 13-week thing with this morning. And I had a lifetime come up from 5 BC. And it's funny because I was tapping into some real current lifetimes. Nope. It went all the way back to 5 BC. I was like, wow. So, yeah, I mean, we're just this, soul essence with all these layers from lifetime after lifetime. It's just amazing.
Because our memory gets wiped at the beginning of every one. When it doesn't get wiped, you have things like schizophrenia happen or problems, associating fully in. So it gets wiped. And then we have to go back through and remember through this different new lens of body and how, whatever culture we're born into in this lifetime. Because it's funny because I've done so many past life readings with people and they're always surprised. You've been a man and a woman. They always think, well, no, am I just always a woman? No, you're both.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I think I may have been more of a man than a woman many times.
Yeah.
They say that too.
I think that too, and yet I think there's been an equal mix, when I look back, but it's an interesting thing. And tell me if you get this too, when you do readings, it's like explaining to someone that person used to be your wife because you were a man and you're the husband, they start, wait, slow down, go back. Well, yeah, you were a man before, not a nice one. So this time you came in to be the woman to feel what it feels like.
Well, and that's the part too about past lives is like, we've played all roles. I've been the perpetrator. I've been the person being, things done bad to me. I mean, because in my last life, I was a Nazi soldier. So I was on that side and dealing with all that, that happened within the camp I was at. It was horrific. So, but we've played all the different variations of roles and for our learning and growth.
Yeah. And continue to.
Right. Exactly.
Just think about our lives, right? We start out as kids and innocent, beautiful creatures. And then depending on how we're treated in school, we can become the bully. We can become the victim, and then you come out of puberty and into your adulthood. And a lot of times the ugly ducklings become the swan.
Yeah,
and then their
definitely.
attitude changes, and then now they're no longer the victim, and they become the bull. It's just this constant working through of the archetypes and that
Yeah.
journey.
But right now on the planet, there are so many people who are trying to really be in the light and step into who they are, and they're really rocking their purpose and opening up. So it's a magical time on the planet right now. And I'm honored to be here, honestly, at this moment.
It's exciting because so much is changing so fast with
With,
technology. So much is changing. Yeah.
yeah, because so in the midst of all the pandemic, I mean, we're now really connected collectively through Zoom and through the internet, which before that we were, dabbling, but it was not like it is now. And it's absolutely amazing now.
It's interesting because I've lived what everyone's lived through the last 2 years. I've lived that since 2000. We moved out to the middle of the country, very slow internet. I didn't leave there until 2017. So it's only been a little while, and people tell, oh, it's so hard to be at home. I'm like, I've been at home, homeschooling, working from home, in the middle of nowhere, raising goats and chickens and horses and everything else since 2000. So without community.
Right.
And the one
Right.
thing that I think came out of this time period that people really need to look at, because you're not allowed to go out and be so busy, you've made connection because you've been forced to, because we don't grow when we're comfortable.
Right. Yeah, that uncomfortable or the challenges when we have our biggest growth.
Because we look for answers. How can I do it different? It doesn't feel good. We want to feel better. So finally we go searching.
And that's the big part about why everyone right now, well, not everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people are searching spiritually. And it's not, in my understanding and feeling into 2022, that's really when there's more stuff to come. And there's going to be a lot of people searching spiritually because a lot of things are going to be making different turns, and it's going to look different. And how do I work with all this now?
2022, it's an interesting thing because I'm already starting to get hits about this time every year. I start to get hits about, okay, well, this is what's coming. And yes, it's going to be a challenging time. But at the same time, I mean, numerologically, 2022 is a 6-year universally, harmony, balance. But in order to have balance, what do we need? We've got to get rid of the things that are creating imbalance and disharmony. So yeah, a lot is going to change, but it just isn't going to go back to the way it was before. And I think that's the one thing people from a practicality standpoint need to accept. It's never going to be what it was pre-2020.
Right. Right.
The landscape,
and change is constant.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the one thing we know is that we're going to be dead at some point. We're going to transition, and that change is constant. And so if we're on the planet, we're in the midst of constant movement, change, and how do things look? It's going to always look different.
Well, and people, the one thing that has come out of this time period too, I think, is it's shown all of us the things that we didn't necessarily know about openly. There's a lot coming out into the open. And it's really easy to get sucked into, well, nothing's working. It's horrible. Can't trust the government, can't trust tech companies, That's true. And if you stay stuck at looking at what you can't do or what you're stuck in, and oh my God, you have no power, it's the wrong track. We can look at these things and say, okay, well, the healthcare system's broken. Education seems to be broken. The government seems to be. Those things have always been that way.
They have been.
Right. You're just seeing it more now because A, you have more time to pay attention to it. And B, it's become more obvious. And there's a lot of things coming out now. So instead of focusing on the things about it you don't like, this is a time of great innovation. We're in Saturn and Aquarius right now, which is all about innovative, inventive, cutting edge, right? So we need to each one of us came here at this time to bring something forward. What is it? What is it in you that can be brought forward in a new way, applied practically to daily life, that can change the way that we do things to bring more peace and unity? Because that's what we're trying to do, but not just unity with each other, like the entire planet.
Like every single area of the planet. a collective, massive change shift. And it's so exciting.
It is. And there, I mean, you think, oh, what can one person do? One person can do a whole lot. One
Without a
light in a
doubt.
very dark place can light up the entire room.
Without a doubt. Well, I am so excited to share you today, Bernadette, with my listeners. And I thank you so much for coming on. And I know they can go to bernadettegold.com and get your beautiful book. And it's a powerful freaking book. I'll tell you that.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing. Yeah. And I'll have all the social media, the links in my show notes so they'll be able to find you. And just, thank you so much again for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was a really good conversation.
And being another light in the world. I love it, Bernadette. Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I appreciate you, and I know that Bernadette appreciates you, and we want you to go out and share your light in the world. And just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.